Over the years on various topics related to Bible prophecy. Today I want to talk to you about tribulation. Recently I was invited by a pastor in Georgia to speak to the Georgia Baptist Convention in their pastors' conference, and he said our theme this year is prophecy. I've asked one person to speak on the rapture, somebody else to speak on the millennium, and I want you to speak on the tribulation. When he invited me, I was in the hospital and nearly dead, and I said, do you realize the condition I'm in right now? And he said, yes, but I'm going to take you on faith. And I said, well, you've assigned me the right topic, and I agreed in April that I would speak for him in November on the condition that if I wasn't functioning by August, I would call him and tell him that. So I want to talk to you about trouble this morning for a few moments and remind all of us that while we believe in anticipating the rapture of the church and the fact that we will escape the tribulation, that doesn't mean that we will escape tribulation or trouble. If you have a Bible with you, you might take it and turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Paul, as you know, wrote 2 letters to the Corinthians. The first one was rather scathing in its denunciation of many of their problems. So when the second letter arrived, I can imagine they opened the scroll with some sense of trepidation, wondering what is he upset about this time. But he begins 2 Corinthians with some words of consolation and encouragement. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 3, Blessed be God, even the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies, the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our what? Tribulation. The troubles that we face in life, that we may be able to comfort them that are in any trouble by the comfort wherewith we ourselves are comforted of God. For as the sufferings of Christ abound in us, so our consolation also abounds by Christ. As Paul writes this letter, he is reminding them that the troubles, the challenges, the difficulties that they are facing in life are part of the reality of life. Our troubles and difficulties remind us that we are still living in a fallen world, that this planet in this condition is not our ultimate destiny, that God is constantly pointing us to the millennium and then eventually to our eternal home in heaven. We're often criticized because of our belief in the rapture, that you guys think you can just escape trouble. Well, no, Paul makes it very clear we will escape the wrath to come, yes, but that doesn't mean that we're going to escape all of the troubles, the problems, and the difficulties of life. I want to thank all of you for your prayers, your calls, your emails, your encouragement. Some of you, like David Hocking, called my wife almost daily and weekly for several weeks to try to encourage her as she had to pray me through a very, very difficult time. About a year ago, my family and I went to Germany to speak in a prophecy conference to 800 people, believe it or not, in Germany. And we were having a wonderful time, but I was huffing and puffing, pulling suitcases and jumping on those European trains and carrying baggage up 4 flights of stairs in a hotel without an elevator. And my son and his wife took me aside after a while, and he said, Dad, this isn't normal. This isn't you. You usually have plenty of energy. Something's wrong with you. You need to go to the doctor. So I said, all right, I'll go to the doctor. Maybe I need vitamins. And they checked me out and said, you've got to take a stress test, which I failed. And all of my friends said, don't worry, as good a shape as you're in, they'll put a stent in you, and you'll be back to work the next day. There's nothing to it. I went in for the catheterization, and they told me you have major blockage in 5 arteries, 75 to 100% in those arteries. We need to do surgery on you like in a couple of days. And my same friends came back and said, don't worry about it. They've got this down to a science. They just cut you open, zip you back up, and you're good to go. Why, in 3 weeks you'll be back to work, no problem at all. Well, the surgery went fine. The problem is, in the next morning, I'm up walking on a walker. I'm going to prove I can do this. But that evening, my lung collapsed, and I almost suffocated to death. My wife had to beg the nurses to take this seriously. I was gasping for breath as they finally rushed me back down to the critical care unit, and the doctor had to be called, and he arrived just in the nick of time to put some tube in my lungs to reinflate the lung, etc. I would guess I was probably 5 minutes at that point from running out of breath. And that was traumatic enough. And a couple of days later, they determined that I had developed a staph infection from the surgery. It was in the sternum, and they would have to open it up again and go in to clean out the staph infection, which by then got into my blood system, and my entire body went into septic shock. Every organ in the body shut down except the heart and, fortunately, the brain. Those are the last two things to go, and when they go, you're done for. And my liver shut down, my kidneys, etc. I could not eat. They stuck, I don't know how many tubes in my stomach, in my throat, a trach in my neck, etc. There was some concern as to whether I'd be able to speak again or whatever. That all started on February the 25th. I did not get out of the hospital till June the 3rd. I was there exactly 100 days in the hospital. The month of March, I don't remember any of it. It's just a blur. I'm told I was on kidney dialysis 5 days a week for a month. I don't remember ever doing it, not one time. I do recall by April, I'm full of tubes. I'm trying to figure out how to sit up. I didn't drink anything through my mouth for 2 months. Your mouth ends up like the Sahara Desert when you do that. I remember lying there thinking, if I could just have a drink of orange juice, that would be like heaven. I remember the day the speech therapist came in and she said, I have this little tiny miniature teaspoon with a little drop of water on it. I felt like the guy in hell. I'm going to give you a little drop of water on your tongue. Please don't choke to death. And I remember gulping that down and thinking, man, that's just the beginning. Whatever. Well, God was gracious. I had to learn to drink, eat, sit, walk, stand all over again. When you lose your mobility, that is a very challenging thing to anybody. I recall the first day that 3 people it took to stand me up, and I was like jello because I hadn't stood for 2 months. All of my muscles had atrophied, and it took me literally weeks to learn how to walk. Once you can take some nourishment and you can sit up, they basically put you out of the CCU. So after 55 days there and 10 more days on another floor, they finally said, you're ready to go to acute rehab, which is another hospital where you do rehab for about 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And they began to try to work with me. At first, I could not get out of bed to get into the wheelchair. It took 3 nurses to pick me up and move me into a wheelchair. One day, a little tiny skinny lady came in and said, I'm here to move you into the wheelchair. I said, you are not. No, forget it. Go get 2 or 3 other big people to do this. You're not going to drop me. I'd go to rehab and they'd say, lean forward. You've got to lean forward in order to stand up. People think they just stand straight up. They don't. They lean forward to stand up. Well, I felt like I was going to lean forward and fall on my face. The therapist kept saying, I haven't dropped anybody in 16 years. Now, lean forward. I said, lady, there's always a first time. Whatever.